Welcome to Exploring the Ozarks, where we tell the history and stories of locations, places, and people that make up the Ozarks. Here's Matt.
There it is.
And the applause is for you this time.
Yes, thank you.
Well, it's for Mike, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry. Mike is pretty cool.
I have a feeling that Mike's probably done much cooler things than I have, so I think that's probably for you. I'll give it to you this time, our 10,000 seat audience there.
Yeah, all out there. Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Exploring the Ozarks, everybody. Thank you for tuning in on Spotify or any other platform for these podcasts,
Facebook,
or on YouTube or on Facebook's our big one that we're really pushing right now.
We're getting YouTube subscribers.
Hey, good deal. Well, make sure you guys like the podcast. Make sure you smash that like button is what all the
that is
YouTubers
what the people,
say.
The cool ones say.
I haven't said that in a few weeks, so I got to keep putting it out there because that's what I hear my kids every single time they're watching a video. I'm like, don't do that.
Since Mike's on here, we should say blow up the channel with us, but not like Mike would. Not like Mike would.
And you're about to find out why we're saying that. But today's guest, we've got Mr. FX himself, Mr. FX Mike Strain, with Fantasy Creations FX here in Springfield in Studio 2060. Mike, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is kind of an exploration of what I said before, which is Ozarkians doing great things and big things that maybe some people don't know about or most people don't know that you were involved with, which we're going to explore a lot coming up. But we'll do our intro first, which is you are hearing us live on the Springfield Studio One podcast room. And there's also a stage that Mr. David with Creative Endeavors has so enduringly
Mr.
put
Creative
together.
Endeavors.
That's on your business card now.
It is.
But he has built
it's also a classroom space and a hangout spot if you want to write scripts or review movies or things like that.
Yeah, or even...
We're also going to start showing films here. We're going to get some classic films and get licenses and all that for it. So
yeah, you've got a huge, what do you call that, a screen, I guess?
Yes. It's a
When you had it up the other day, though, it was pretty impressive.
It's like 8 feet by 16 feet.
It's a good size.
It's big.
And so it rivals kind of like the Moxie feel is what you
no,
kind of feel. I mean, I'm not saying the Moxie.
Moxie's
the
bigger.
Environment is very quaint and
we're not trying to compete with them because they're really cool.
We're working alongside
We're finding
them.
the films that they don't show.
There you go.
Doing that instead for film lovers. That's one of the things that we do here. We do a lot of things here.
Right.
Springfield Improv performs out of here. They have classes out of here. We're thinking about doing some other classes out of here at some point for other things with movies like special effects, production, script writing, things of that nature.
Yeah,
so.
And you don't talk about it much, but I can since I'm not on an NDA. But A&E was also here filming a documentary, and then they showed up one day, and I'm like, wow, this is all pretty professional stuff. What's going on? He's like, oh, it's just A&E.
Yeah, it's just them.
Okay, cool.
Boston Dynamics showed up here. They were here.
Boston Dynamics, that was
I actually
super
got Spot
cool.
to be on the stage, and he took a bow.
Oh, good.
And then he rolled over on stage. He did his little tricks.
I love it.
It was great.
That was one of the coolest podcasts we've ever had. We think that there's a company like Boston Dynamics
we say that about every
door.
podcast, though.
I know.
Because we have a lot of cool people on here.
It just gets better and better.
Yeah.
And your mind is about to be blown here. But I'm going to let David talk about Patreon real quick. So, David,
let's blow up Patreon.
Yeah,
okay, we need to stop using these blowing up puns. Sorry, Mike.
I like how you say we.
So Patreon is a way for individual people to support us here at Exploring the Ozarks. You have $5, $10, $25. You can support us in our exploration of the Ozarks. Things that we do here are not for free. We do have everybody that comes on as guests or come on for free, and we do all this promotion for free. But it is not free to produce. So we have editors. I do a lot of behind the scenes work for bring people on. The show, I mean, Matt's doing a whole bunch of work with the show as well off the screen. So there's a lot of things that go on here, and if you want us to keep on doing it, we would love to have your support.
Yes.
Because not everything is paid for by the sponsors, and we would like to do things that you want to have done.
Yeah. So even with people doing Patreon, hit us up with some ideas. We're always looking for ideas for stuff.
There's
to do
unique
with
content on Patreon. There's on Patreon, the page itself, you can actually make comments on videos. We'll start asking questions, poll questions about what you want to see or people that you may know that would want to come on. These are all things you could do. You could interact with us more directly through that portal.
We're going to have merch soon for our Patreon people, too.
Such as this.
Such as the shirt that David's wearing right now. And thank you, Crystal Cooper, for coming out with that. We appreciate that. Yeah. But let's get back to what we're here to do today, which is we're going to dive into who Mr. FX Mike Strain is. So how do you come up with the name FX Mike Strain? How does that follow you?
I feel like I should ask this question first.
Okay.
Have you ever blown up a car from across your studio?
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever created snow in a place where it shouldn't be?
Yes.
Okay. Smoke effects. I mean, you do like big old smoke effects. Have you had to burn a corpse on a cross?
Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I said
we'll
Jesus
just keep.
at the same time. Man.
I feel like we needed to start with a little bit of bang
Okay,
there.
that's good, actually. That's a good
Mike's done a
segue.
whole bunch of really cool things.
Right.
He actually doesn't done these to people.
Right.
So you know.
Okay, so let's
They're
clarify.
all movie props.
Let's talk about some of your resume real quick then, Mr. FX. So, number one, your shirt that you're wearing, PBR, everybody I think around these parts,
here.
they know what PBR is, man. And not Pabst Blue Ribbon. This is the professional rodeo that you'll see come through John Q. Hammond's. I think a few years ago, there's some bulls that got... I think a couple years ago, speaking of, there's a couple bulls that got out into the parking lot, I want to say a few years ago. That was pretty comical to watch online. But so they use your license when they come to town for their pyrotechnics, correct?
They do, yeah.
Anybody else that uses your pyrotechnic license when they come through town? Because that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, throughout the state, I've covered a lot of concerts and stuff. I've covered Rascal Flatts and Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper and...
Wow.
Rob Zombie has quite a few pyrotechnics in his show.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I used to cover a lot of stuff. But
So when you say you cover, does it mean that they set things up, but you go there and do
And
final
just
inspections?
oversee it.
Basically, they just use my license to shoot their show in the state, kind of thing. So
Then you kind of oversee what they're doing.
I do. I
safety-wise.
mean, it's liability-wise on me, but for the most part, it's just I sit and watch the show and then get a check and drive home.
Hey, man.
I feel like I need to get this
paid to go to
license.
concerts.
I do, and then we get to sit where nobody else, wherever it's always
stop
roped
it.
off.
Yeah.
And I get to go anywhere on the stage I want because of my
Because
license.
you have to be,
Yeah, I got to
so-
check that real quick.
Yeah, okay.
Well, so do you need somebody to like take over your business when you retire and like show me the way? Because I have a pretty good 4th of July event with lots of pyrotechnics, but it's always been a dream of mine actually to do what you do. So this is pretty
Speaking
cool.
of that
you're here.
license, though, I mean, that's another thing that one of the team members here works at Crave Endeavors that works with Mike quite a bit is his name's Kong. He was telling me that the Springfield Police and Fire Department and other people call you. You're like one of the first people they call if there's a fire that they don't know anything about.
There's a fire or theft or like a terrorist with something that they think's going to blow up something. I'm on the short list to call because of my license.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they used to.
Have you ever actually had to go out to one of these places and consult with them on site?
No, they wanted me years ago, the fire department, because they confiscate a lot of stuff, and they thought about having me go out to set up like their firing range where I could blow something up. They would just give me stuff, I would blow it up, and they would come in and try to figure out what it was. But the city, liability wise, they're like, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even though they're not there and you're just blowing it up by yourself, and holy smokes. Well, I think it's an interesting topic, to be honest with you, because a lot of things are changing in our world right now, and people have so much access to YouTube or TikTok, and there's so much bad stuff out there that people can learn too, along with good things.
And sometimes people are just dumb like myself.
Right.
I loaded up a wooden cannon I made at one point with pyrotechnic powder, like gunpowder. Set it off. I'm sure you know what happened after that. A wooden cannon.
Picking up pieces everywhere.
So, no,
Yeah.
it's split into 3 pieces.
Oh, that's it.
So I was smart enough to put a 3-4 foot thick tree between me and the cannon. So, at least I was... But it blew up. It shook the house that I was next to. This is my parents' house. And my brother, who was living there at the time, comes running. I was like, what happened? I was like, I just blew up this cannon. So the first thing I saw when I opened up my eyes is I saw one part of it hanging in the barbed wire fence, bobbing up and down.
Gosh.
And then I found another piece was just there. Another piece went all the way over the house to the other side of the house.
Whoa.
Landed on the other side.
Lucky you were behind a tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to smoke out because I did not understand
compression.
the compression. Yeah.
Man.
I thought it was just going to be like a quick psh and just do
Well,
something fun. But
I think you're probably not alone, because I also have a crazy story with gunpowder. I'm not sure I should tell because I don't want other people going out and doing that. But there you go, because it was a friend of mine that I didn't know he was this crazy, but he had a 2-liter bottle halfway full of gunpowder, and he left it in the trunk of my car.
Oh.
And I didn't know what it was until a couple days later, and it was in a bag. And I was cleaning out my trunk, and I'm like, what is this? And then I was like, that's gunpowder, right? It's like, I'm going to blow this up.
Oh, gosh.
So we went to a remote place.
So don't do this.
Right, on a
whoever's
friend's
watching. Yeah.
farm. We went out to a remote place where I knew I wasn't going to blow anybody up or myself, and we found a way to detonate this with napkins, actually, and I threw it as far as I could, thinking, I plugged up the hole and everything was fine. And I just said, if it doesn't go off, it's out in that field, and I'm good. We'll wait 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so, see if this thing goes off. Well, we walk away, and we get about, 150 feet away, and I'm like, that thing's not going to go. And as soon as I said that, all I felt was this concussion and this boom and this smoke plume that went up. It was actually really cool. Luckily, we were out in a farm somewhere, so nobody was around. But then it hit me so hard that it almost jolted me backwards.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
that
okay,
tree I was behind, I felt it shake.
You probably did, because
did.
I felt it from well over 150 feet away.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I better go check on this. Now that it's gone off, I know it went off. There was no remnants. And then I see the field on fire, and I'm like, oh shit.
Gosh.
And this crater that's probably 10 feet around by like 4 foot deep, I was like, damn, this really does some damage. But you do this in a controlled environment, and very controlled, I'm assuming, because if you have a license for this, you obviously have a lot that you've done over your lifespan with this. So,
well, I feel like I have to ask here, how did you get into this?
That's what I was going to say. How long ago was this?
We told our crazy stories. Did you have a crazy story like that got you into doing this?
Oh, no.
Or?
No, it was more my dad. My dad was artsy and creative. It's where I inherited all my talent and loved horror movies, and that's just how I got into it. And then discovered Tom Savini, who's a makeup artist that also does pyro and stuff, and then just started taking firecrackers and rocket igniters, putting them in, and it would set them off instantly and that kind of stuff. So that was my first bullet hit. Don't do it. It's very dangerous. But
that's where you learned how not to mess with this stuff.
Right? Yeah, we do that kind of stuff. So I'm not that big of a pyro maniac, but I just, I enjoy it.
Well, you respect it and you know how to do it.
It's almost a scientific process, what you do, though, because it is a controlled environment. Yeah. Yes, it is chemistry. Yeah. It's a lot of timing as well, knowing what products work well with other products. But let's go back to the resumes. So you said before the show, you've done 92 feature films, which seems crazy that anybody from the Ozarks would even be involved in one feature film. You've been involved in 92 feature films. Can you name some that we would know?
Yes, the very first feature film I ever worked on was called Sinister. It was a local film, and it just got released last year before on Blu-ray. It was shot on video, real low budget, and that's actually where I met my wife. She played the cellar bride, and I was doing special effects, so I cut her head off in the movie.
Oh, wow.
And then 15 or so years later, the news leader, we had a lady that we knew that worked there that was doing a Valentine's Day story, and she wanted to do unique stories, so she picked us as one of them. And
that is unique. Yeah,
that you cut her head off and she still married you.
So in the newsletter was a picture of me with my wife's severed head on Valentine's Day. So we still have the article somewhere, but it was us and a couple that had a car wreck that met and they got married, and there was some of that. So
wow. Okay.
So when you cut her head off, well, I'm assuming this was like, did you have to make a fake head that you
did a live cast? Yeah, did a live cast of her head and then reproduced it in rubber.
And had to do the hair and all. Or was it burnt? Or was it just completely sawed off and then
blood? It was. I'm trying to think. I think the guy had an
listener discretion advised, by the way. If you're uncomfortable with this stuff.
It was a hacking situation.
Right.
Okay. Interesting. I do find that I'm not a big horror film guy, but I do find it fascinating just how you can make these wounds possible. Like I watch a lot of detective shows, for example, and just seeing what they have to do to make
to recreate it,
recreate the wounds, recreate what's happening, the blood force, all those things.
Well, that's what makes a movie a movie. To me, growing up, you're like, some movies just were terrible, but the special effects, you're like, wow, that was pretty. Like a lot of horror flicks, I can't make it through because of the acting. I'm like, okay, but take a movie like Blade, for instance, where the first scene is he walks into that club and they're all dancing and they're all vampires. And all this blood starts coming out of the sprinkler systems, and everybody's drenched in this blood, and then he's standing there at the end of it, and all these people separate, and it's like one of the coolest scenes because then he goes off and starts killing all these vampires, a room full of them. Right. But just the special effects in that one scene had to take years to put together. I believe there's another sequel coming out for that right now, actually. But to me, special effects is what makes any movie.
Yeah,
you can have a lot of movies. There's a lot that maybe they win the Oscars and things like that are really ones that I would never watch because they are fairly boring, and maybe there's some great acting in it or whatnot. But most people, I think in general, they go to the movies because they want to see really cool special effects, and that's you.
I try.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, I worked on a movie in Boonville, Missouri called Saving Grace B. Jones with Michael Biehn from Terminator, Tatum O'Neal, and the effects coordinator on that was a guy named Lou Carlucci. And he was the guy that did all the blood for Blade.
No way.
They did a thing where before they went in, put blood on them inside, then they had a shower system set up when they came out.
Yeah.
And they had everybody sign waivers, and it's fake blood.
Okay.
And people still sued him.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
We talked about all kinds of.
How would you? Man, that's such a deep
He also helped
deal.
in one of the Elm Street, the 5th or 6th movie, helped make the glove that with the skin on it.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That kind of stuff is, I love watching the behind the scenes, anything on the makeup artists and things like that. Because when you say artist, that is a real art form. And then even just getting the lighting correct to make it look good is also an art form. So it's just amazing to me that there's a lot that goes into these movies. But you said that You're Next is another feature film that's just came out. Is that right?
No. That one came out in 2012, I think.
2012. Yeah. But that was another feature-length film. For part more of the resume, you also did a commercial with Nelly, am I right?
I did. Actually, it was for Ford, but Nelly was the artist in it, and I was contacted, and they said it was a Facebook ad. So, I adjusted my budget for it. So we drove to St. Louis. We did fake snow. I did pyrotechnics.
Wow.
I think that might have been it. But so we set it up and did everything, and at the end of the commercial, they had a woman on a trapeze go through a banner and had the pyro and had the snow and had dancers and then
pretty impressive. Yeah.
And we went home that weekend after and we were watching the Grammys and the first commercial break. There's the commercial. So they shot it for the Grammys and told me that it was for Facebook. So.
Oh my God! Can you sue somebody for that? I mean, for all things to be sued about, my gosh!
I should have definitely charged them more.
Yeah, I was going to say you lowered your budget quite a bit for that, but that's a big moment though. I mean, that's a big artist. I mean, everything that you're talking about here is not like it's just, and I'm not dogging Sato, but it's not like Sato where it's small little films. This is feature length films. Mm-hmm. Which one was your favorite to shoot?
My favorite.
I mean, the Nelly video sounds pretty fun.
It does.
It was fun. I've done so many things. I worked on a local, like a web series with some people, and they actually cast my son to play a scout in it, and they had in their head already how they were going to have him die, and I cut his head off in the
wow.
thing. So I still have
family tradition.
I still have his severed head, so I still have it.
I mean, your reputation precedes you with your son, even so. And we also talked about before the show that you were on, or at least involved with someone that was involved with another big film that we can't talk about that went through a lot with some, how do we say, some shootings. But otherwise, that just shows you, if you get the reference, that it was a big feature movie right there. But so you've worked on all these movies, 92 feature films. You've worked with Nelly. You cut your own wife and your own son's head off for creativity purposes. Where did all this start? So how old were you when you had your fireworks incident? And then when did you get into this? Did you go to college for this? It was self-taught?
Was it around here?
Right.
It's all self-taught. I just play an experiment, started when I was 18 years old, bought clay, bought latex, that kind of stuff. Pyro was a little bit later, but I just, like I said, my dad was into horror movies and real creative, and he was one of the first Halloweens when I was probably 10, he took wood glue and toilet paper and put big cuts on my face, which was great going on, everything. Taking it off really hurt, but it was so good that I got to go to a friend's house for Halloween night, and she about had a fit when I showed up because it looked really good, and she called my dad and, what's going on? And he's like, I just did his makeup. It's fine.
Wow. And it was that realistic that she had to call to confirm.
That's impressive.
It looked cool, but I think I could have deflected rocks. It was so hard on my face. It was, but I don't know, just getting started, that kind of stuff. I've always loved monsters. The Gill Man, the creature from Black Lagoon, is my favorite monster. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys want to guess what my absolute favorite film is. I don't know.
Creature from the Black Lagoon?
No. It's nothing to do with horror or anything. So.
Hills or Sound of Music.
No.
Julie Andrews. Who doesn't like Julie Andrews, right?
It's a 40s film.
Oh,
okay. So Casablanca?
Gone with the Wind.
Has James Cagney in it.
James Cagney.
You have to give me another hint.
Gosh.
It was the story of George M. Cohan.
Oh, that's the 4th of July, isn't it? What was that?
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah. What intrigued
I do know that movie. I've watched it multiple times.
I'm glad you guessed it because I had no clue. So what intrigued you about that to be your favorite?
I think the Cagney thing, but just the history of. I'm not a song and dance person. I'm not a big fan of working in theaters and doing live shows. I don't like the pressure and the stress. I love cameras where it's cut, didn't work, let's do it again, get it right. But I don't know. There's just something about it. I think mostly Cagney. I mean.
Great actor, though.
But his scene where he dances down the stairs after meeting the president, it's just like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's impressive.
That was just a short, quick little thing that he did there too. But
right,
it was
a
impressive.
Spark of magic though, and it spurred something in you too. I'm sure. Because how old were you? I mean, how old were you when you first saw that film?
Probably 9 or
Right.
10, yeah. So
Right.
I have it on VHS, DVD, Laserdisc, and I have the poster. So it's
I feel like I need to go watch that. And I kind of feel the same way though. There was what is that movie called? It was a movie about George Méliès, who was basically the father of modern filmmaking, French, but I forget the name of the film. I can't remember, but it came out a couple years ago. But there was a history of filmmaking that I hadn't seen before. And the backdrop of the movie was, was an orphan child who was basically looking for family, but was inventive and all that. But find out about how the films actually started. It's interesting seeing that history and seeing how that can be expressed in movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, so I'll have to.
Well, and that's what the
the
magic of the movies
I'll have
boils
to,
down
once
to.
I find the title, I'll let you know.
Yeah, or post it later on here as well, because
There we go.
because as far as like the magic of the movies, this is probably the biggest part of it. Besides, how did this movie come about? I don't think, honestly, I don't feel like Hollywood, even though
Hugo, sorry.
Hugo was a great movie, actually.
Yes,
yeah,
I
now
loved
I know
it.
what you're talking about. But even just think about where that came from, as far as the fruition of it and the idea of it, and how long a lot of these scripts take to even make it into a producer's hands or director's hands. And usually by the time the director gets it, it's already been through so many other hands that they put it together for the director and say, here's the package. But having you as a big part of that is, honestly, that's what makes things happen. That's what makes things look good.
So I want to ask, did you grow up in the Ozarks?
Yeah.
Or were you
born and raised here.
Okay, so how did you end up staying here? Because me being in the film industry, I understand. There's not a lot going on around
Well,
here.
you hear
And
LA is the place to be, right?
Well, LA, Atlanta, New York,
Right.
Vancouver. There's a couple of different big cities. It's spreading out now with the advent of modern technology, social media, online. But you started this in the early 2000s. Right, with
80s, 87.
the 80s. Okay, so I was thinking the studios and when you started.
Yeah, we bought the studio where we're at in 2010.
That's
so.
okay. But so you've been doing this at the 80s, but you established yourself around here.
I did. The very first professional thing I did was for a mobile home commercial, and I built a shack, a shanty, and held it up with wires. And on cue, we just pull it over and and it dusted. That was the very first thing I did locally.
Oh wow,
That's
back
so
in
cool.
'87. So
Who was that with? Like what production company?
I don't even remember. It was with I think it was KSBR 33 back in the day, or
right.
27 or whatever. But just some little mobile home thing, and
pretty creative though.
Yeah,
You don't see that too often anymore.
yeah, we did it, and put baby powder all over the roof, so when it fell, it made a dust cloud,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Now we use Fuller's Earth. I have Hollywood Dirt,
Hollywood Dirt.
which is just ridiculous expensive to ship, but
But it gives you the cloud effect that you want when something lands.
it does, and it's dirt colored. It's a mining byproduct out in Arizona.
Oh.
They go through and they mine.
there's a lot
it.
of really cool tricks of the trade when you start getting to how special effects are created in movies.
Well, let's get
how that
into it.
works.
I think that's the
Well,
most
before we
interesting
do
part.
that,
Yeah.
it's time to take a break.
Oh, already? Wow.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Time
there.
flies.
Yeah, so
Well, then take your break, go do your thing, and check out our sponsors while you're at it. Choosing your home loan is one of the largest financial decisions you'll make in your lifetime. And with many different kinds of mortgages available, there are lots of choices out there. I'm Matt Graham, and I will help you find a mortgage loan that fits your lifestyle and spending habits so you can shop with confidence. My passion is helping people find the homes that they love. I will find the best way to get you that loan, working all the angles and finding what will work for you. Because I know transactions happen at all times of day and night, you can always reach me at 417-209-8532 or matt.graham@centralbank.net.
Springfield Studio One is proud to host Focus on the Five podcast and many other productions here in Springfield, Missouri. Do you need a place to rent for video productions, photo shoots, and everything in between? Contact us today and we will provide the perfect space for what your project or event needs. Reach us at 417-739-0777, springfieldstudio1.com.
All right, cool. We're back then. So during the break, we talked a little bit about what you did in your past to make you better at your job. So, the products that you use and where they come from and all that is a lot of research you got to do to make sure that, number one, you're staying safe using this product, and that maybe 20 years later it's not going to give you cancer or something to that effect, because some of this stuff might be unknown, that what you're using anyways, to the average public. But you said that the way that you create, like you just talked about with one film, that they wanted you to create some dead bodies or what looked like dead bodies, and tell us a little bit about your background in that. How would you be able to do something like that?
It's just study a lot of anatomy. I like science and stuff in school. I love dissecting frogs, which they don't do now. It's all plastic, I guess. They don't do it anymore. But a lot of research. Able to sketch and draw a lot, that kind of thing. And I don't know, just I mean, back when I started, there was no internet like it is today.
Right.
I used to go to had a friend that had a card. I could get into MSU's library, research library, and I could look, Xerox or go to the local library and spend hours and Xerox books and, build like a, now they call them lookbooks or whatever the thing. But back in the day, I used to do that. And
Well, people don't realize that about film industries. It's actually extremely technical.
Oh yeah.
People focus on the actors and that side of the emotional and the drama and all the
which is
things
technical
that,
too. Yeah.
It is also very technical.
But
everything else is very scientifically based. You have to reproduce things exactly, because if you don't, well, you can fudge a little bit with lighting. But you have to get it to look like on camera like it is a real thing.
Well, yeah.
Which, and with CGI coming out, it's kind of taken that a little bit away from that. But I
you
know there's
never-
a lot of films that are going back to doing more practical effects over
because you can pick it
CGI.
out real quick in a movie. I think. I mean, there's some stuff you're kind of hidden, but a lot of stuff you're like, that doesn't meet up quite right. Or like you said, you did taxidermy for a while.
I did for a couple of years,
And that tells you a lot about being able to dissect something or rebuild something or recreate something to look real. Right. There's some people that if they never have done that, they're not going to be able to make a fake squirrel that someone tears apart, like in some movies that we've seen that we won't mention.
I have another squirrel story if you want to hear
Let's do it.
I did a movie called The Albino Farm.
Oh.
And we shot that here, Marionville, and up north.
And that was about the albino farm north of Springfield?
It was a made-up story about these monsters that lived in a cave. And so there was two directors on it, and one of the directors, Joe Anderson, was going to play one of the monsters. And they put him in makeup, and he did it once, and he's like, I'm not a big fan of this, but had a big wig, and he couldn't see because the prosthetic pushed one of his eyes down, so he only see out of one eye.
Oh.
So Joe came to me, and he goes, would you want to play a monster? And I was like, why? And he's like, I just don't want to do it. And I've worn makeup and done other stuff growing up being a makeup artist, and I was like, sure. So I had long hair at the time, so they just teased my hair real big and prosthetic, and he's a bigger guy than me, so he had size 13 shoes. I wear size 10 and a half, so I had to stuff socks in them and wear 6 layers of clothes to fit in the wardrobe.
Oh my gosh.
But there's a scene where we're in Fantastic Caverns we shot.
Oh wow.
And there's another guy grabs a squirrel out of a kettle, supposed to be eating it, so I'm supposed to be the big guy, so I walk up and grab it, knock him down, and I take it and I sit down, and the camera pushes right into my face, and it's a real squirrel.
Oh gosh.
That they had killed or they'd gotten, and they spray painted it white because they wanted it the home of the white squirrel thing. They wanted it white, so it smelled like spray paint.
Oh my god.
So they'd had it in and out frozen a couple of times.
Gosh.
So we got it and we rehearsed a little bit, and I grabbed it and under the fur, because they wanted me to, they split the fur and you just pull it on it.
Right.
So a fresh squirrel, you can just pull it and it'll come right off.
Right.
On a squirrel that's been thawed and stuff, it's like a bag of M&Ms. So when I grabbed it, I pushed my thumb through the skin into the inside of it.
Oh my
and
gosh.
and I told them, I'm like, all right, I got to do a blood bag. And they go, why? So I took a Ziploc baggie, cut it down, fill it full of blood, cut the end off, and I had it hid in my hand. So when I bit it, I just squeezed it and it shot across my face. And I had fake dentures in, but the camera, and I didn't know because we were shooting playing the monster running through the caves, doing all this stuff, and then they're like, that day they're like, are you ready for your close-up shot? And I go, what are you talking about? Because I'm like, I'm a background guy. I don't like being in front of camera at all.
Right.
And another friend of mine, Ryan Shields, a stuntman, played a character in their monster as also. And so we get up there to do it, and here come that camera. And I was just like, why did I agree to do this?
My God.
So I've got this squirrel and stuff, and they call action, and I get it, and I sit down, and I squeeze it, and the blood sprays, and you hear people kind of snicker, and I'm just trying to keep it together, and the camera's right here, and then I act like I'm eating it, and the blood's dripping off and stuff, and I hear somebody gagging, starting to gag during the take, and I'm like, and they just let the camera roll, and I'm just eating it, and I'm looking around, I got blood all over, I'm just eating it.
Can't stop now.
After about 5 minutes, I'm like, all right, is that enough? What do you guys like? Somebody got called, and everybody was just like, they're just mesmerized. I don't know what it was.
New guys over here puking and stuff.
There we go. Yeah.
So they called cut, and I was like, who is gagging? It was my friend Ryan, the stuntman. He was
my
like,
God.
he goes, I don't know how you could do it. He's like, it stinks so bad. And I'm like, well, the taxidermy, I got over the smell, but it was
It's quite the squirrel story.
But the squirrel, yeah. When I
I'm
laid it
surprised
down,
they used a real one. I mean, I get you want to, sell it, but that seems like you could maybe recreate that somehow. I don't know.
I could have, but it's one of those,
much easier and faster.
Here's the budget, and they're just
say,
like,
right.
What is here? Use this one.
That's hilarious. now freeze it and spray paint it.
Yeah.
You told me this story the other day at the studio when I was there buying some stuff about the spider box. You should tell that one. Kind of along the same lines of
We did a proof of concept trailer for a movie where it was like a torture film, And we've got an inversion table where they dunk people's heads in water and stuff, and then we built a big wooden box. They put people in it. It was one of those things that people pay to get kidnapped and tortured. It's like one of those.
Yeah,
one of those things.
It's like the biggest
movie?
challenge or the Fear Factor. I think.
Yeah, but what's that one movie where was that Saw, or was a series of them where the guy gets into a dungeon like that? I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. But anyways,
but then they had where they put people in the box and they had spiders and stuff, and nobody wanted to get in the box. Even the box had little bitty spiders just from being in storage and all that.
Yeah.
And my son,
these are real spiders.
My son hates spiders, but they wanted somebody in there with spiders to bang on it because I put you in and lock it. None of the actors, nobody wanted to do it. So I'm like,
I wouldn't want to do it.
So I'm like, when he could get the shot, I'm like, okay, open it. I got in, and I mean, there were spiders and stuff they shot going in and out, but
sure,
whatever. I'm just like, if it gets squished, not my fault. And they lock me in. They're doing all the shots. I'm just banging on it and
screaming
with spiders crawling all over you.
And I got out and like, where's the spider? I'm like, I don't know. I never saw him. So,
so you were okay. It was probably dark too. Thank God.
They were probably smart about it. They're like, I don't want to be crushed by this. I'll just go in the corner.
Right. Yeah. They said it was all black light because the main character, when he would kidnap you or grab you or whatever, he had a clown mask on, but he would spit on them. This was right before pre-COVID.
Oh gosh!
But he would spit UV fluid, so when they grabbed you in the room, you had all this stuff all over you.
Interesting.
It was really neat. It was a neat concept.
It's an interesting concept.
But it was right before COVID, and everybody else went to other jobs, so I don't know. They might still pick it up.
Okay.
So I have to ask, because feature films, you've done 92 of them. How many of those were done here in the Ozarks?
Quite a few. I mean, I've worked on movies in LA and in New York.
Because people don't think about that in the Ozarks. Like, we think short films, State of 48, maybe one or two things on here. We hear about the Ozarks, how the show The Ozarks was shot in Atlanta, not here because of XYZ. But there's been several shot here. So how many do you think have been?
Probably 75 or 80
Wow,
of them.
In the past 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of like Discovery Channel shows, but like shoot, I can't think of the
like
name
recreations for Discovery.
I've done a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Okay.
We did series, but I'm just trying to think of the other.
So I think the History Channel's done some stuff around here too.
Yeah,
Some
I've worked on some of those.
A&E's done stuff around here,
Who has? Oh,
A&E.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's legit credits, everything I've done, but some of them are so bad. Like we've shot Kansas City. I'm like, I mean, they're online, but like even IMDb's just like, we don't really feel it's a real movie. So, I mean,
we'll just push this off over here. It's not even a D-lister. It's like a Z-lister.
It's like a biker babe from Hell or something I worked on. It was one that was like
that one didn't make the cut.
No, it's
it
sounds amazing.
It's on my resume.
There's a lot of horror films out there. I think it's a huge genre for a lot of underground actors and stuff like that. Like we talked about Corey Kays, who's a good personality we have on this show, and we had him on the radio show a while back and all that. I know him personally and stuff, but the Straight Edge Kager movie that he got all sorts of awards for was a really fantastic movie. Not necessarily horror, but I guess it kind of was. A lot of special effects in there too, but they used a lot of natural places that they needed to go anyways. Like they would go film in a concert was already going on for this type of band, and they would go in there and they would insert their actors into the real crowd and have a real band playing, and then they would still be able to execute what they needed to execute. Yeah. So that just tells me a lot about how Hollywood acts and how you've got to plan this stuff out. But you're using explosives. So what's the coolest thing you've ever blown up then when you're doing this?
Probably my friend Ryan. He's a stuntman, so he does body burns.
Oh, okay.
And then I set up.
Was this a thing on the cross?
No, that was a dummy. Okay. Not that Ryan's not a dummy, but
I think you have to have a little bit of a screw loose to be a stuntman, and I commend that.
Well, he went to school, and we do everything. We do body burns. We usually do them once a year because
once a year.
On his birthday in December.
Okay.
Like every year, he wants to do a body burn, and the coolest one we did 2 or 3 years ago. We did across street from our studio in the parking lot, and it was snowing. I'd never done anything in the snow, and of course shooting it with slow mo and all at him on fire. It looked really neat. So.
I bet. So a guy asked you to come burn him every single year for his birthday, so you know what you're doing on that day every time. So what's the process of that? I mean, I think that's interesting because a lot of people just see the end result, or they see it in a movie, or you even maybe see some behind the scenes stuff. But so what's the process of lighting someone on fire safely? Not that anybody needs to do this at home.
Please
if you do, we're going to say right now, we told you not to do this.
No liability here.
Yes.
He wears multiple layers of like underclothes soaked in a special chemical that won't burn, that reduces heat. and then he has a dry layer on, and then we put a burn layer on top of that. So he has 6 layers on when he does it, and either his face open with a hood on. I mean, if it's in a movie and you got to see his face, usually you always see the stunt guys and their hair is always slicked back.
Yeah.
It's the fire gel that they put in their hair, and basically you goop it on their face about a ½ inch thick, so that way the flame doesn't get to their. And then they have to hold their breath, because if you suck in the flame, your lungs are like tissue paper, and you're
interesting.
Gone. Yeah.
Well, your eyeballs are pretty susceptible to it at that point too.
How long can you be on fire?
It depends on
the stuff you're wearing.
Yeah, so many things you do, and then how cold it is and all that. And we've done a couple of burns. We did one in Detroit with him in a movie, and he had a full silicone mask that I made on, and he fell. And we were in a liquor store, not much bigger than this, and he on fire and fell through the counter, and he laid there, and they just kept filming him, and you could hear everything sizzle. And then, we just called cut, get up. And he goes, you're going to put me out? And we're like, you laid there so long, everything just went out. I mean, it just burned itself out. So, and I was like, you okay? And, we kept talking to him during the take. I'm like, you good? And he's like, yeah. And he got up and he's like, you need to put me out. I'm like, it just burned out on its own.
God.
So,
it went on that long, though.
Yeah. And then we've got one that's on YouTube of him sitting in a chair like he's tied up. And the guy's supposed to throw gas on him, but it's water. And then we had already pre-gelled him with the burn fluid, and he throws a lighter at him, and I took a torch from behind and hit him, and he just goes out. So we got that. I'll have to send you a bunch of these links.
I would love to put that into the.
Yeah, because did that make a movie? Is that part of a movie that you guys?
It was in a movie. It was a bunch of guys that I know that are from India, live in Michigan, and I've worked with them on and off for 10 years making films.
That's so cool.
Wow.
So one of the things I saw on MythBusters at one point was Adam Savage talking about like blowing cars up, and how much gasoline's used for that.
Yeah.
Have you done stuff like that, like blowing cars up? And
I have. I mean, it takes a lot of
any
prep.
tricks to the trade there? Or, well, I mean, what is the prep?
They put
that?
stuff underneath them to blow them up, don't they?
Yeah, if you want to flip it, it's a totally different thing.
Well, I'm just like a big car, like a big ball of fire sort of thing.
So a lot of times I use the propane poppers, which is a pre-made canister. You put a propane tank in, it has a pierce that once it flashes, it goes poof, and it does a 25-foot fireball, and it's pretty much out instantly. It has a little bit of residual gas,
which is why
it's punctured.
Is that why all the superheroes or the heroes walk away in slow motion? Because you want to get that big fireball?
Yeah.
they do that, or a lot of
it goes so quick.
Gasoline too, but you can put some of these propane poppers. I think that you could almost put them in around a real car that drives.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it has a fuel or something leak, and flash it, and for the most part, it wouldn't hurt a car.
Right.
But
that makes sense because
cars
it's just
are
gone
sealed
so quickly.
Well, and cars are sealed. It would take getting into the fuel line somehow.
Right. Well, we take the engine out, tranny out, the gas tank out.
Fluids are out.
We got almost. It depends on the shot, but all the interior, the headliner, the carpet, you take everything out because of EPA, and so it's basically a metal box with tires and then under the hood, I'll have a steel trapezoid hopper, and I'll do anywhere from 1 gallon to 5 gallons of gas. Right. And you have a lift charge in a container to blow the hood off.
Right.
Yeah. And then the hood and the doors, basically the doors, you unbolt them, take them off, and you put them back on. You can wrap one wrap of fishing line around it.
Right.
So once the fire hits it, it's gone.
Everything falls apart.
And and the concussion of it probably does some damage to whatever's held on with fishing line.
Well, I have steel cannons that are made at angles that we put a lift charge in, put sand on it, and the sand goes out, and that's what knocks the door off.
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. But then you also have to cable the doors 25 to 50 feet so they won't go. Because in the 70s, I guess there was a couple times they were out in the quarry, and they blew up a car, and the crowd, the crew's just watching, and then somebody gets whacked with the trunk.
I can see that.
So after that, they're like, all right, we got to start
you
cabling
really design it how you want it.
Yeah.
It's safety first on everything.
Well, you see all these movies, like mafia movies or something where a car blows up after they get in, they turn the ignition and things like that. So it's kind of cool to think that.
And that's not with like a dummy, I'm assuming, is in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want to be around that kind of concussion, I'm assuming, based on what I know about gunpowder, which isn't much, thank God. But so the magic of the movies is kind of made with you at that point. So, I mean, I don't know really what to ask you at this point. Volunteer some things for me. So, I mean, you've done 92 feature films, but you've eaten a squirrel. A white squirrel.
Tell us a bit more about the pyrotechnic stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of where I want to go with this, because the products that you use, we talked about
for
earlier.
the fireworks, is that what you're referring to?
More for, I mean, what's the coolest part to you of what you do?
I enjoy blowing up cars, but it takes 3 or 4 days prep, and then doing body burns with Ryan. I've done them with a few other stunt guys, and we're working on trying to do a Guinness World Record burn with him.
Oh,
well.
I don't want to talk too much about it.
How long did that burn take? when he was laying there and it just went out? How long did you think that
Probably
was? 30 seconds or so?
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Geez, Louise.
Yeah, he laid
What's
there.
the world record then?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, people they have one on Guinness where the guy's running and they're basically running behind him, spraying him with fuel, keeping him burning.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
he's got like 20 layers and he's got like breathing stuff and all that.
Right.
So.
Well, I assume if you're moving and that flame is kind of behind you a little bit,
Right.
that makes life a lot easier to be able to keep going. So you're
Sure,
not worried
yeah.
about your eyes. I mean, do you protect your eyes at all when someone's on fire? Is that like a
It
thing?
depends. I made a mask for another stuntman friend of mine where we put Pyrex lenses in it.
Yeah.
And a hard mask. Ryan, I made a silicone mask for him, but they're real deep, so it's hard to, to get air in and stuff
Right.
like that. But we still gel underneath and all that. But
My
I'll
gosh.
tell you a cool story. I wasn't involved in, but is it Led Zeppelin, the album with the two guys standing and shaking hands?
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd. The
Yeah,
one
where
guy-
one's on fire and one's
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
That's Ronnie Rondell.
Yeah.
And he's from the Ozarks. He retired.
Really?
He retired back to Lake of the Ozarks, and we got to go up and talk to him. He's in his 80s now.
Yeah,
but-
he's a well-known stuntman, though.
yeah.
In
We actually
Hollywood.
we did an interview with him, and I haven't gotten to put it out yet. But we
Whoa.
did a big long interview and all that. And I was at Walmart the other day, and they had a pink hoodie with that picture of them on there. I was
Interesting.
like, that's
Isn't
pretty
that
cool.
crazy how far that come?
There's
Yeah.
the gentleman, I can't remember his name, that's on that picture with him shaking hands. He passed away last year, I think.
Oh.
So, but that was pretty cool getting to meet Ronnie and, seeing everything. He's got his barn with all his autographs and
Well, yeah,
run
because he was
around
like the
and all that.
original stuntman for a lot of Hollywood flicks.
Right, and then he wore the first. Ice Station Zebra wore the first breathing apparatus to do a body burn. So,
Oh,
Right.
cool.
Well, because with the body burn he did with that Pink Floyd shoot, I actually watched somewhat of a documentary on how they did that album cover because it's a really neat album cover. And he was not really suited up in a lot. Like he was wearing a business suit
Right,
in that.
right.
And so there's not a lot of room for a lot of the layers that you're talking about.
Right.
I don't even think his hair had much gel on it at all. And he had long hair. I mean, a little bit shorter than yours, but he had pretty long hair at the time. And you don't see that it's, and I'm sure they had other artists going afterwards, but you got to think this is 1976, 77. And they didn't have a lot of technology back then to CG things in.
And
or
no
to-
safety rules.
or safety rules. Yeah, but they actually just went out in the back lot of somewhere I believe that he was actually doing a film, and that's why it looks like it's in a movie like studio set.
Yeah, 'cause it
and
is.
so
Okay.
yeah, and basically they just walk up and they shake hands, but they weren't really shaking hands from what the picture is. But
Well, let me ask you this. Speaking of like famous people and all that, so you've done this film stuff for a long time, and your kids grew up on set with you've told me before, like famous actors and people like that. I mean, what was it like that part of the business, like being around celebrities and having your kids in that
Right.
environment? Yeah.
Most celebrities were a lot of fun, and I had a lot of got to meet a lot of people doing stuff, and been very blessed to be paid to go places. And for me, what I call playing.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "Don't call it playing. Tell them it's work." It is. I mean, it is work.
Fair
but
enough.
But it's fun. But one of my favorites was, I don't know if I tell you the story, Derek Mears. He's a big, tall actor. He started out as a stuntman, but he's played Predator and Jason and The Last Jason. and
Oh
all that.
wow.
We were doing a movie in upstate New York called The Aggression Scale.
Huh.
And we had done a couple of gags. Guy got shot, and we did blood splatter and stuff. And I was wrapping up a compressor hose in the bathroom, and they were doing room tone, which I don't know if you know what room tone is. In between shooting, they set up and they record room tone. Everybody's in there just breathing, doing what you
Okay,
do.
just normal.
That way, because when you edit, if you cut sound, there's no sound in. There's just like a blank space. They can put that room tone in, and it blends it.
Oh.
So they were doing room tone, and I was in the bathroom rolling up the hose, and they would call quiet room tone, so I'd stop working, and I'd listen, and then I would hear like a creak sound, and everybody would just burst out laughing, the whole crew, and I'm like, all right, something happened. It was funny. So I call cut, here we go, we're going to do it again. So I stop,
Finished up.
and then all of a sudden there's a creak, and everybody start laughing, so I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I stepped out the bathroom door so I could see, and my son's standing right in front of Derek Mears, and Derek's got his hands on his shoulders like, don't go anywhere. And everybody's standing around, and the AD, Josh, I can't remember his last name, super guy, he's bright red. He's the one been giggling the hardest. So they call room tone, and they're like, all right, we got it this time. And they call room tone, they start rolling, and Josh turns and he looks at Derek, does this, and Derek goes like this. And then I look, and they start recording, and then I see Derek bring up his prop shotgun and put it against my son's back and push him to take a step.
Oh, shit.
Every time they would do it, he would make him move, and and all that. So Derek, I mean, he's a prankster, jokester, great guy. And we did a shot. We're in the woods, and he gets hit in the leg with a tree limb that we set up with spikes to break his leg.
Oh, my gosh.
So He's at a jumpsuit. We pull out his good leg, and then I put the dummy leg in to break. It's made to break.
Okay.
So he takes his good leg, because we're standing face to face, and he puts it on my shoulder. He's so tall. He puts it on my shoulder.
Good God.
And then my wife's taking pictures, and everybody starts taking pictures of us. And I mean, my head's right here to his chest, real low.
Wow.
And he's smiling at the camera, and he goes, "Come here," and he brings me in and like smothers me and stuff. But we did the shot, and we talked a little bit. I mean, he's like a big sci-fi nerd, and he's the biggest teddy bear. But I mean, he's a huge.
But no one knows what he looks like either, right? Like, you wouldn't know him if you saw him in a movie and were like, "Oh, that's the guy that played Predator," or
yeah, because he's always
Yeah,
doing
he's
makeup
huge.
or characters, and does a lot of stuff. In the aggression scale, he actually played a henchman, so you got to see him.
Oh, okay.
And I built a splatter rig you put on your back, like the zombie movies, where you push a button and it sprays.
Right, when they get shot or whatever.
So he got shot in the movie, and then he jumps, because he used to be a stuntman, so he jumped back, hit the tree, or in a house, hit a doorway, and he fell.
Right.
And we set it up, rigged it, compressed it, and got it all ready, and they call action, fired the blink, and he fell, and I mean, he jumped back from probably 3 feet and hit the door and slid down.
Jeez.
Ouch.
And they call cut, and I looked at my son and go, "He broke my splatter rig." I mean, he hit so hard. I was like, I'm sure he just snapped everything. And we got up, and it was fine. And he goes, "That's built pretty well." He goes, he almost he almost tried to break it on purpose. I was like,
He was giving you props for it.
yeah,
though,
but
afterwards.
he was great. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
No pun intended with props, but
Right.
So, I mean,
I have to say we are getting close to time.
are we
so,
really? Already?
Yeah.
God
Yep.
bless it. Well, so I mean, with these products that you make, how do you even make a splatter rig? What is involved in a splatter rig? Like, I know everybody has seen it in a movie. You've seen it go off. You see that it leaves a little hole in their jacket or whatever. But how does that work?
Those are squibs. Those are
was
bullet
gonna say,
hits. That's a little bit different.
Okay.
Splatter rig is a thing, and they also make them different, call them guacamole guns, which it's a blood gun. It's basically a compressed air chamber with a trigger, and you have a tube on the end, how big, how much gore and blood you want to put in it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've used it. I did a short film in Arkansas where they would shoot people, and we put earplugs and stuff in them. It's just compressed air, and I only do like 20 PSI.
Okay.
But I hold my finger on it, then I can let off right before I fire, and it hits them, and like, I think they used it in Pulp,
I see.
Pulp
So then it
Fiction,
ju-
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it shoots
yeah.
blood on them
But
at that point.
the one that goes on your back, if I aired up to 60 PSI and fill it full, it'll shoot 40 feet.
Holy
Oh,
smokes.
So, yeah, I can hit a building 3 stories up with
Well,
it.
and the
We've
squibs,
used it.
the squibs that you were talking about, which is whenever somebody gets hit with a bolt, that's the stuff that sprays
That's
out
what- okay.
forward. Does that actually create holes in the clothes, or do you have to
They rip
pre-cut
those in
holes?
there.
Yeah, no. Well, we prep it a little bit, but if you put a number 1 squib in your hand, it'd blow your fingers off. It's,
What?
it's explosives.
So you put it on somebody's chest, and
do,
the
yeah.
clothes
Outward.
is a little bit ripped, but not so much you can see.
Right. So there's ways you can pre-perforate a little more to make it tender, or you can slice it and back it with some stuff, and then
Yeah.
it has usually then it has a condom with blood in it, and then you have the squib, then you have a metal plate behind it,
Yeah.
and then a leather plate, then neoprene. I mean, it gets thick. So,
So you protect the people.
yeah, you have to.
And then it's what is it? Compressed air that forces it out?
No, it's
Yeah.
explosives.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
a
it's
little,
explosives.
It's got 2 pieces of wire, and it runs to a thing, and either they push it, or it's mostly most actors get too propped out, so
Yeah.
it's on a wire, and I hold it, or I push a button whenever they react. Same thing with doing.
So do they have to react to it, or does the force actually push them
I'm
back?
sure it makes it a little more realistic.
It scares them, and it hits about, it'll give you a little bit of a kick. So
Sure.
And it's the same kind of thing we do glass breakers. We put them on. I put them on and rig them to where I put them on the side, and people are going to go through the glass, and I'll stand even with the glass on the side of the building,
Yeah.
so I can watch when they get up to it. I push a button and it shatters, usually right as they hit it.
Oh, wow.
I wondered how they did that.
Timing
I
is
didn't know if that
everything.
was like a fake glass that people would.
It's
slide
still
through,
is it
or
still
if
that
was-
sugar glass or whatever it is?
No, we usually most of the time we use tempered glass.
Tempered
Yeah.
glass,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Well, because it shatters well.
And I mean, if you had the stuntman Ryan Shields on here, I'd tell you he hates it, because every time you go through real glass, you get cut. You
Oh,
always
yeah.
get little
Yeah.
nicks.
Oh, yeah.
But I always, with him, especially doing these movies in Michigan, I would always push it and like let him hit the glass. How much can I let him hit the glass? And one time we did it, and he hit the glass, and it was like, and then I popped it, and then he fell through, kind of thing. He goes, "You're a little late." And I was like, "I want to see how far I can push it." But
So did you have to recreate that glass and do it all again?
yeah, I mean, usually we'll order 3 or 4
Okay.
pieces, and your next was the one that a girl got punched through the glass, so I shattered it. I think we did it twice, and then once they got in, she's crawling, and the guy picks her up and throws her into the coffee table.
Right.
And I put a popper on that too, and I was off the distance, and once she came down, I hit it,
Wow.
and it shatters and go through it.
Well, I hate
It's
to
the
wrap
coolest
this up, but we
thing
do need
ever.
to, unfortunately,
Damn it.
have to end due to our equipment
Well,
limitations.
you know,
so.
I think we need to have you come back because
I was gonna say
I'm
that
sitting
second
here-
half. I feel like we finally got going on cool things on the second half.
because I'm
but-
sitting here thinking about we need to do this where we can actually come watch you do this.
Oh, that'd be cool.
To me, do you have any projects you're working on right now?
Or can we just have some fun one day?
Yeah.
Like if you want to just go
Yeah,
out and
we can do
practice.
something. I've done stuff for like local TV shows.
We can blow up a
where
canoe.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
We do, we've done a zombie thing, and I did fake snow for them. We did a bullet hit on the, just all kinds of stuff.
That'd be a lot of fun.
And is that what Studio 2060 does? Is that basically
Studio 2060 was a production company. We
Okay.
we did features and a lot of shorts and commercials and stuff.
Okay.
And then, but Fantasy is the special effects company.
Are you for hire with Studio 2060? If any of our listeners want to build a movie, make a movie, would you be the guy they call?
We are. Like I'm semi-retiring. I'm pulling back, selling a lot of the gear. But my son, grew up in it, and he's taken over. And his company's called Mad Reels, and he's in it. He's the one that's kind of taking over the reins and doing
Nice.
more stuff. So.
Yeah, that's
Man, I love that because I'm sitting here thinking, man, he grew up in it just like you kind of did, but he was even younger growing up in it probably because he was probably in it from birth, I would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was on set as a baby, and then we did a lot of shows, and they're just like, why are you bringing your kids? And I'm like, well, my son has more credits than a lot of people on this set does. I'm sorry, but I mean, a lot of effects companies are like that.
Right.
Have their own family, and I was just, I could trust them. I knew they weren't going to go anywhere. So
Right. Well, and he gets to learn from you, and maybe he even makes it a little better than you did because you never know, that creativity gets spurred in somebody, and he's seen it since he was little.
Yeah.
He might have a little different perspective than you do. So, well, Mike, FX Mike, thank you so much for being here. It does go by way too quickly when we get to talking to people.
And we've extended our initial podcast to 25 minutes. Now we're averaging like 50 to an hour.
Well, people keep saying that they want to listen to it more, and thank you guys for giving us feedback on saying
Show
make
us
it-
that love. Go on Patreon.
Make it longer. I mean, some people are like, "That's it? It was only 45 minutes." I'm like, "Only 45 minutes? You should see how quick it goes while we're in here."
No joke.
And
I'm
the
just-
last one was
I'm
great.
just afraid it's always going to I'm going to bore people to death. And
No, you made this way more interesting than it could have been because nobody knows how to make a movie, but hearing what you do is like the lifeblood of any movie.
Yeah, and it's exciting to hear that there's stuff like that going around here in the Ozarks.
Yes,
There's
That
just too many
movies?
times that people say, "Oh, movies won't work around here," but really, you don't need a huge budget. I mean, and you can go out and make something, and something fun.
Well, I mean,
it's not going to be Hollywood level, but it'll still be a feature film. And
Well, it says a lot because you're talking 75 feature-length films that you know of that you've been involved with that were shot right here in Missouri or in the Ozarks. And me and David have talked about this almost every week about how much we want to help bring, and David especially, bring more production companies to the Springfield area to shoot films. And it really starts with legislation on getting tax breaks and things like that because I know that's how Georgia does it. But we need to be able to shoot, like our own Ozarks episodes in the Ozarks, right?
Right.
But that's also the magic of it all. So thank you for being a part of a lot of our lives. We probably don't even know what all you've done, but we're watching movies, and now you can think about Mr. FX Mike Strain from right here in the Ozarks possibly being involved in it. So
if you have any questions on how certain things are done in movies, make a comment below.
there you
And
go.
then when he comes back, we can answer some of them.
Absolutely.
I was going to say right now we have Freedom's Path in theaters.
Freedom's Path.
Freedom's Path, and then next year Meg Ryan's going to come back. We did a movie and did Fake Snow for her film for next year.
Nice.
Do you know what it's called? Meg Ryan?
Something.
Can you even say it?
I don't remember. Something happens.
Well,
What happens later?
Are they
If you look
shooting-
at Meg Ryan on IMDb, it'll show the features that she's in right now.
so are they shooting that here locally then, I guess?
We shot it last October in Arkansas.
No way.
With her and David Duchovny.
That's two big names right there. Wow. Okay. Well, whenever that starts to come out, let's get them all on here. Run on.
There we go.
But no, thank you so much, Mike, for being here. We do appreciate it. And we look forward to probably developing a relationship with you, and hopefully we can expand what you're doing as well. So thank you so much for
That
being
was fun.
here.
Thanks.
And everybody else, keep exploring the Ozarks. Thanks again for listening to Exploring the Ozarks. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our social media channels to help us keep exploring the stories of the Ozarks. If you're looking for more ways to support our show, we have sponsorships for businesses and Patreon for individual supporters. Check the links in the description for more details. Thanks for your support, and keep exploring the Ozarks.